us. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
The views and opinions expressed on Trudging Together are solely those of the host, co-host, and our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization, fellowship, or other entity, and definitely not your boss, your neighbor, or that one guy in your home group. The content of this program is not intended to replace medical, psychological, or professional advice. If you're looking for that, please seek guidance from qualified professionals who spent way too many years in school. What you'll hear here is based on lived experience, recovery journeys, and the occasional bad coffee-fueled joke. Trudging Together is not affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. We are simply people sharing our stories and walking this path together, one day at a time. Thank you for joining us, and remember, recovery is serious business, but that doesn't mean we can't laugh along the way.
Happy Friday afternoon to you. Got the grandkids. Yay, the fun can begin. I didn't like this one because it was usually I see them, once a month. I get them 1 week in a month, but this time it's 5 weeks. It was a little too long. Thinking about upping the amount of time that I have them. So now that my daughter's decided she's going to stay on this side of town, maybe we can do more. I'm also thinking about having a big celebration for my 10-year. So thinking about it. May rent out a room at the community, at the rec center or whatever. Get a little room and I tell my story. Maybe have a couple of friends tell their stories. Go live. Maybe do that on a Saturday for the speaker meeting. So my 10 years is a big deal to me. 10 years is what I had before I went out. And at this point in my recovery last time, I was not going to AA anymore. I'd stopped going for about a year at this point. And I think it was longer than that, maybe a couple of years, right? So I'm, so when on this birthday, I will have hit a longer amount of sobriety. Hey, Maylan, it's good to see you. Good to see you. And then I have drank a total of 20 years. All right, my drinking career was, so I drank for 5 years, stayed sober for 10, went out for 15. Now I'm coming up on 10 again. And I will have just as much sobriety time total as I did drinking time. So that's why it's a big deal to me. Otherwise, and it's double digits, and now I'm an old timer again. And yeah, so it's cool. It's cool, but yeah, it's also what it is. It's also a day at a time program. It doesn't change the fact that Dion's an arm length away from the next drink like everybody else, right? But welcome to the Daily Trudge. I am Dion. If you don't know my name, you do now. All right. You're not going to meet too many other Dions. Not D-I-O-N Dions anyway. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. All right. Thank you, Maylan. I appreciate that. Still got a couple months. 2 months. A little less than 2 months. But you know how it is. You start to reflect and things like that. Kylex says, hey, handsome, text me privately. Yeah, no. I appreciate that, but I am very married and happily married. So, but thank you for the compliment. So today we're going to be in the 12 by 12 on page 47. All right, page 47. Right, and it is I mean, it's not necessarily easy to remove the word blame. I go through it too. It's like, well, look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. Um, and I would blame people in my life for who I was. Right. Um, June 2015 for me. Oh, so you're just a little over a year ahead of me. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, that'll be 11 years, huh? All right. Awesome. All right. Um, so well, I'm going to read this and then we'll go to the 12 by 12. Um, to see how erratic emotions victimized us often took a long time. Let's cover that. Actually, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. See, I have something to say on all this right now, so I'll just go ahead and cover it. So those erratic emotions victimized us, right? Often took a long time. Right. And this very much has to do with emotional sobriety and not utilizing other people to make me feel better about myself. All right. Self esteem. It is not they esteem. It is not us esteem. Okay. It is self esteem. Okay. We can perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. Yeah, because we live with ourselves. But man, it was a lot easier, and that's not the case anymore. But it was really easy for me to pick out your character defects. It is, and to this day, it is easy for me to judge. Not something I'm bragging about. Absolutely not. All right. Hey, Amber, good to see you. I sent you a picture of what I thought about. Let me know. It's a cool idea, huh? We're talking about sock puppets. And I have some pot holders upstairs, and they just go over the hand, but they look, it makes it look like you talk. And if you slip that in there, it'll give like the a mouth and give it some features. And I'm thinking that you could put some rivets into the side of the sock and hold it down, make sure it stays secure with some glue, and then put some strings on it so that your sock puppet would have hands too. So you do like fake do expressions and things like that. So, right. So the evolution of the sock puppet is happening. Everybody seems to love the idea. So I sent you those pictures. Let me know what you think. You're the artistic one that could, because buying a bunch of those doesn't quite fit. But if we had like cardboard or something, right, then we can make different shaped heads and things like that too. But not my forte. Anyway, so we can perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. So you spot it, you got it very much in this. That's how I figured it. And to this day, I still do it. When somebody irritates me, gets on my nerves, if I am pointing a finger, then I need to take a look at myself. Dion, are you doing that? Oh, I am. Hmm. Then in my thought process, what can I do? I can thank that person in my mind for being that reflection and showing me that. Now I'm no longer upset with them. I'm taking a look inward at what Dion needs to do. It's a much better way to deal with things. I'll guarantee it. You'll find a lot more happiness that way, right? So first of all, we had to admit that we had many of the defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. What are they saying? Okay. When we see those defects in others, they're saying, you spot it, you got it. He who smelt it dealt it. We know how this works. All right. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. That includes thought. Yes. My thought process. Amber says, just add googly eyes. Oh, they'll be googly eyes. Don't you worry. Just put googly eyes on it and that's good. Oh, you got to have hair, put little outfits on them and stuff. Come on. Right? So we had to drop the word blame. What is another word that we have to drop from our speech and thought? Shame. Shame inward, blame outward. Okay? That doesn't mean that you should call yourself names. Oh, you dumbass. No, 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 no. Right? You call yourself a name, you best apologize. Okay? That is a 10th step. Oh, but it's just me. I know. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, you're telling your brain something, man. It's not true. Has Dion done dumbass things? Yes. Is Dion a dumbass? No, he's not. Other people might think that. They don't tell me. Now somebody's gonna be like, Dion, you dumbass. Now people are gonna be watching out. All right. When I did my 4-step following the big book guidelines, I noticed that my grudge list was filled with my prejudice and my blaming others for my not being able to succeed and live up to my potential. I also discovered I felt different because I was Black. As I continued to work on the step, I learned that I always had to drink. I always had drunk to rid myself of those feelings. It was only when I sobered up and worked on my own inventory that I could no longer blame anybody. Right? So in this person's, they felt that because that they were probably, what's the best word, kept down because of their ethnicity, but really it was them thinking that kept them down. Right? What page were we supposed to be on? Uh-oh. Thankfully I don't have to look far in here. Whoops. Here we are. 47. Okay. Oops. Oops the daisy. 47. All right. 47. Where is that at? Okay. First off, okay. Here we are. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go to where the reading was, and then I'll just continue on. Is what I'll do. Bottom of page 47 for anybody that would like to follow along. All right. So to see how erratic emotions victimize us took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. First of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. This required great willingness even to begin. Yeah. I tell you now, thank God for willingness. Because it gives me a place in the quiet to make decisions. It helps me out, but it did take great willingness just to begin and get going on my 4-step. Some of that willingness had to come from my sponsor and from other people. Hey man, you better get on that. We got to get you on that. And it was encouragement. That encouragement was, yeah, I need you to start working on your 4-step or you're fired. That was the encouragement. But once over the first 2 or 3 high hurdles, the course began to look easier. Those first couple of lists that you make are going to feel like really high hurdles. Just take direction from your sponsor. Don't worry about looking forward into it. Don't worry about what, no. You just follow the directions of your sponsor. Okay. Don't make it, it's not easy to do, but let's not make it harder than it needs to be either. All right. For we had started to get another perspective on ourselves, which is another way of saying we were gaining humility. See, when you come in and intentionally ask for help, you get it. I'm talking about God. You will get it. I watch it happen all the time, even to the newest of the newcomers. Yeah. I really wanted a drink today, but I prayed and I drove by that liquor store. I came home and I hopped on a meeting. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah, man. You hear it all the time. What a great choice to make, right? That's because you're gaining humility. You ask for help and you're getting it. It's part of being accountable. It's really cool when you go from, I have to go to those AA classes to, I can't wait for my meeting. I can't wait to see my friends. It isn't just a fellowship. I get to see my friends. Yeah. And we have a great group. I love how that group goes. Now, so I had noticed that whenever we put in the format that there is no crosstalk, and what crosstalk is, I notice people stop encouraging others, and that is not crosstalk. So if we just set a good example, it doesn't need to be put in there. I took it out of our format like 3 months ago, and nobody's even noticed. Nobody's even noticed that it wasn't in there anymore. But what did happen is more encouragement started happening. Right? It's a different perspective. I don't need to tell you not to crosstalk, right? Because then what happens is you're probably not, you may feel like you don't get to say everything that you're going to say because you felt like it might be crosstalk, and you want to follow the rules because you're a person that follows the rules now. Yeah. And it worked. There's no crosstalk in that meeting. In fact, the last person that got in trouble for crosstalk was me. Because sometimes I get a little too talky in between shares. Still happens to me. Right. And so I gave the group permission that if I do that, to please tell me. Well, since I did that, it hasn't happened again because I made that statement. I admitted it. I'm like, you're probably right. I'm doing that. I didn't quite feel that way, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. I too can take direction from the group. Yeah. And sometimes it's still hard for me to say, oh, that was a really good share. Thank you for that. It's a sacrifice. Cool. All right. Of course, the depressive and the power driver are personality extremes, types with which AA and the whole world abound. Often, these personalities are just as sharply defined as the examples given, but just as often, some of us will fit more or less into both classifications. Human beings are never quite alike, so each of us, when making an inventory, will need to determine what his individual character defects are. Having found the shoe that fit, he ought to step into them and walk with new confidence that he is at last on the right track. Yeah. So we're kind of different, but we all kind of tend to land, and what they're trying to do is give you permission to take a look at whatever character defects by telling you that it might be a little different for you, which I think is great. Just giving you permission to heal here. But you're going to find that every single resentment is based on fear. You're going to find that out. See, we all kind of tend to come to the same conclusions, right? Now, we might give them different words, and that's okay too. That's all right. Okay? Because like the ones that we list in the big book, like security and ambitions and self-esteem, they're just different words for the 7 deadly sins. They are. They're just different words. But for us, it gives us direction. When we say sloth, it's not quite enough for Dion. I need a little bit more than that. What do you mean sloth? Well, to us, that would mean resting on our laurels, taking success for yesterday's sub. Oh, okay. All right. I get that. Yeah. I guess I kind of have been a little slothful. Doesn't Because when I hear sloth, I think of some dude that's 500 pounds that eats all the time, and that's not necessarily true. All right. So I got to look at these things. Now let's ponder the need for a list of the more glaring personality defects all of us have in varying degrees. To those having religious training, such a list would set forth a serious violation of moral principles. Some others will think this as a list of defects of character. Still others will call it an index of maladjustments. Okay. Some will be quite annoyed if there is talk about immorality, let alone sin. See? That's why they changed it. But all who are at least reasonable will agree upon one point. Right? This is what I love about AA. It has landing points on which we can all agree, and it's what keeps us together. This is something we can all agree on, right? We'll agree upon one point, that there is plenty wrong with us alcoholics, about which plenty will have to be done if we are expect sobriety, progress, and any real ability to cope with life. There we go. Doesn't need to be huge, doesn't need to be awe-inspiring, doesn't need to be overwhelming. Nice and simple. That there's plenty each of us needs to work on. We can agree with that. There we go. There's the landing spot. You might call your character defects a little different than mine. It's okay. That's all right. I don't think your higher power cares. The fact that you're doing it and you're looking at it is what matters. Okay. Well, that's part of what matters. The other part that matters is that you understand that with that defective character, there's something opposite that is good. You can't have good without evil. You can't have bad without good. You can't have happiness without being sad, or you won't understand what happiness is. All right. So it is okay to call these different things. It's all right. Maybe the verbiage is different now. Okay. Maybe we're talking, maybe there's different buzzwords for it, right? Where earlier we were talking and they brought up grog, and grog is what is a mead that orcs drink. And at that time, that's what they call it. We call it different stuff now. After that, it was called John Barleycorn. It's been called a lot of different things, right? So, all right. To avoid falling into confusion over the names of these defects should be called, let's take a universally recognized list of major human failings. The 7 deadly sins of pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. It is not by accident that pride leads the procession. For pride, leading to self-justification and always spurred by conscious or unconscious fears, is the basic breeder of most human difficulties. Pride and fear, in this case, are pretty much the same thing. Well, they're the same thing, right? Then it goes on to say, difficulty is the chief block to prove true progress. Pride lures us into making demands upon ourselves, and upon others, which cannot be met without perverting or misusing our God-given instincts. When the satisfactions of our instincts, sorry, I'm having to post here at the same time, for sex, security, and society becomes the sole objective of lives, then pride steps in to justify our excesses. Aha. And that's where that pride is. What is the pride doing? It's trying to get rid of the fear by justifying what it is that we're doing, thinking, acting, these different things, right? So, all these failings generate fear, a soul sickness in its own right. Then, fear in turn generates more character defects. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Unreasonable fear that our instincts will not be satisfied drives us to covet the possession of others, to lust for sex and power, to become angry when our instinctive demands are threatened, to be envious when our ambitions of others seem to be realized while ours are not. We eat, drink, and grab for more of everything than we need, fearing we shall never have enough. And with genuine alarm at the prospect of work, we stay lazy. We loaf and procrastinate, or at best work grudgingly under half steam. These fears are the termites that ceaselessly devour the foundations of whatever sort of life we try to build. Ah, man, yep, that was me. Not all of it, but yeah, the possession of others. I always had to I always had to have a pretty girl on my arm or I wasn't anything. And I usually wasn't single for very long. All right. Um, Fearing we shall never have enough. Now, part of that for me, there's a lot of things that come from being in group homes for me, like not having enough. See, I used to steal when I was younger because I didn't have enough. I didn't think I did. There were times when I asked, Mom, can we stop by Safeway real quick? I want to go in and buy a candy bar. Okay. And I came out with a candy bar, but I stole it. I didn't buy it. Uh-uh. No, I went in and stole it and came back out. Dip. I still dip all the time. I started dipping when I was 12. I've always thought I was an adult. Then you get into group homes, and if you don't eat fast, you don't get seconds. You have to shower very quickly. You don't want soap in your eyes for too long. Group homes are a lot different than jail, because jail you're exposed. In a group home, at least you have a locked door, right? So, and what was the fear? The fear that I may never get enough. I still eat very quickly to this day, and I shower very quickly too. Yeah. So when AA suggests a fearless moral inventory, it seems to every newcomer that more is being asked of him than he can do. All right. I'm going to tell you this is true. So there's a saying, and if it's true for you, awesome, awesome. But for me, it's a little different. I hear people say, God never gives me more than I can handle. That's not true for me. Sometimes God gives me more than I can handle, so I reach out to his children. I have to ask for direction all the time. It happens to me on a daily basis when I'm dealing with something where I don't have all the answers, so I need to reach out. Happens all the time. So, yes. Why? Because God wants you to have a little trust in him. Does my courage come from me? Yes, it does, but it's backed by God. It is that unsuspecting inner resource. I steal it from God, and I steal it from the people around me. Because my friends have a lot of courage. You got to have a lot of courage to be my friend. I don't really feel that way, but it is fun. It was funny. Both his pride and his fear beat him back every time he tries to look within himself. Pride says, "You need not pass this way." And Gandalf says, "You shall not pass." I had to say it. Okay. And fear says, "You dare not look." But the testimony of AAs who have really tried a moral inventory is that pride and fear of this sort turn out to be boogeymen, nothing else. And what does that mean? It means it doesn't exist. Yeah. It was an unwarranted fear. Now that's the mind of an alcoholic for you, generating all these fears. Why were we doing that? Because it gave us a great reason to drink. These are all just excuses to drink. That's all they are. All right. But the testimony of A's who really tried and nothing. Okay. Once we have complete willingness to take inventory and exert ourselves to do the job thoroughly, a wonderful light falls upon a foggy scene. As we persist, a brand new kind of confidence is born, and the sense of relief at finally facing ourselves is indescribable. These are the first fruits of step 4. Cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff, Maynard. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you all. I love you. You know I do. Peace out.